This month on CityCast Portland, we're interviewing candidates running to be the next mayor of our city. And today on the show, we're talking to our third candidate, Commissioner Rene Gonzalez. Since joining the Portland City Council in 2023, he's been a very vocal advocate for public safety and has attracted support from the law enforcement and business communities. He's also garnered controversy with his hardline stances on stronger penalties for drug offenses and unsheltered homelessness. And today on the show, we're talking to him about why he thinks he's fit for the job. It's Thursday, June 20th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. One of the only few personal facts that I know about you is that you love soccer.
That's right.
And that you played rec futsal. Is that still true?
That's all true.
Are you able to tell me what your futsal team name is?
It is called PDX United Board Meeting.
Board meeting?
Yeah, it used to have a lot of board members from a single youth soccer club. So we called it our board meeting.
That's so funny. I also used to do rec futsal, and we were called the Maradonuts.
Oh,
nice. It was all girls.
I wanted to change our name to the commission, the cronies, but they objected to that.
I once heard someone had Bloodbath and Beyond, and I was like, oh, that's such a good one.
That's a good one.
Well, thank you again for making time for us. We know you're really busy. Straight off, like if you can just pick one thing that you think isn't working in Portland right now, like what would it be and how would you fix it?
Well, public safety is such a centering piece for so many Portlanders right now. And that permeates a lot of decisions about where people want to live, where they want to spend their dollars, where they want to have fun, where they want their family to be. And so we are making some progress in the city and county, but it's not where we want it to be. And it's not going to be just one lever we pull to address public safety. That's a complex, meaty topic, but that is in a lot of ways the number one issue that needs addressing as a city. I put a close second are encampments. The two overlap sometimes, but they have some unique wrinkles. So that might be my 1A.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm giving you one lever. So we'll say safety.
Yeah.
And how would you fix what our issues are currently?
A city our size, if you look at comparable cities, should probably have around 1,100 to 1,150, maybe even 1,200 police officers, and we're a little over 800. So we have to continue to recruit and retain police officers more effectively. The recruiting is actually going okay. It's retention. We lost a lot of police officers 2020 to 2024. We also lost a lot of 911 dispatchers, which are also an important part of our public safety system. And so we absolutely have to protect our pipeline of recruiting. In tough budget years in the past, the city would cut recruiting for public safety, and we'd have these peaks and valleys in staffing. And that's no way to do it. You got to keep the pipeline coming of new young people entering those professions. Second, you've got to elevate and celebrate your public safety professionals. We can't take them for granted. And, we had testimony a couple of weeks ago from two trans teenagers that work in Old Town and talking about some of the public safety challenges they faced and how much they appreciated police and their response to some hate crimes that they were exposed to. And we have to tell that story. We got to celebrate when, core public safety is doing exactly what it's expected to. And it's not always shiny and exciting by modern times, but it's still super important for our entire community. And it's an important component of how you retain people in that profession and continue to recruit there.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is more police and ways to keep them.
That's a core city responsibility. So I think when we talk about crime, the upstream contributions of an environment that leads to more crime, right? Mm-hmm. That is absolutely has to be a city responsibility. And part of that is, do people have social connection in the city? Do they have connection to the arts and to sports and just to enjoy this life. And, the pandemic really did damage to our social fabric. And, it's a big part of addressing public safety and just addressing happiness in the city is absolutely tackling making this a space where people are enjoying life, feeling connected, feel like they have economic opportunity. That's absolutely part of the public safety equation.
There is a lot of people, though, wondering if the quality of policing would change, if the community would look at police officers differently, if more of them were actually from Portland.
For sure.
I mean, because that's a big deal to a lot of people. It's feeling like there's no community investment and that perhaps it's almost like we're getting looked down at.
Yeah. And
so what I'm saying is if you're like, hey, we should, have these police officers, we should revere them, we should have more compassion or whatever. I feel like that's a baseline, right? That it has to be met both ways.
Yeah. And I mean, I might double down on connection to the community. One of the good news stories right now, but that it's going to take a while to carry out through the police department. We've historically had this kind of caricature of, Portland police officers, they live in Clackamas County or Clark County.
Mm-hmm. I mean, most of them, not some, most of them.
Well,
right?
The data on that's interesting. It's pretty well spread. And it's also like, where does the police chief live, right? Where's the fire? And it carries over into other public safety bureaus, but police tends to be the big focus. And so one of the things I'm going to require is that the top, professionals in the city government, including the police chief, are going to be required to live in the city. And you set that from the top down. Second, we used to have thriving cadet programs in the police department, in the fire department, that were very intentionally recruited from neighborhoods in the city of Portland and recruited at our high schools, recruited from our colleges. And I'd really like to double down on that. The fire program got canceled pre-COVID for things unrelated to COVID. It was a bargaining issue. The police cadet program, I think, can be stronger and tied more directly. So I think a part of what you're getting at, and this distance between the community at times and the police department has to partially be solved by leadership living in the city, recruiting from the neighborhoods, and just keeping that connection.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first I've heard of this proposal of requiring leaders in safety to actually live in the city, and it's an ambitious proposal. And you have introduced a number of ambitious proposals in your time on city council. You proposed a plan to roll back part of the city's voter-approved government reform package and a more strict proposal to ban homeless camping citywide. But you weren't able to pass these proposals or several others because they lacked that wider support within City Hall. And this is kind of a long one, so please bear with me, Rene. In a number of these instances, leaders who were invested in the potential rule change expressed feeling a bit blindsided by these proposals. For example, there were some last-minute changes to a proposal changing housing development rules that Commissioner Carmen Rubio's staff they said they hadn't heard about, despite there being weeks for you to share your concerns. There was also a proposed resolution to change ambulance staffing that Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson's staff said she never heard about. So my question for you is, how do you plan on getting your big ideas, these proposals that might have public support, but how are you going to get them through as mayor in collaboration with these regional stakeholders and what will soon be a much larger city council,
Yeah, well, I'll break those into pieces and just a little bit of background on a couple of those. So ambulances. I strongly disagree that proposal came out of nowhere. That was a year-long discussion between the Fire Bureau, myself, and the chair's office about really horrific performance by our ambulance system in Multnomah County and a need to reassess. In a lot of ways, the city was the last to that party. East County cities started complaining last summer about the performance, requested a change from 2-1, what's called the 1-in-1 system. The city of Gresham approved a resolution ahead of us, although we were in tight contact with them on it. And we brought forth the resolution in the city of Portland to match Sharon Mirren's resolution that she was bringing at the county. So our dissatisfaction with the county's performance on ambulance service should have been a surprise to no one at the chair's office. And again, we were supporting a county commissioner in her pursuit, who happens to be an emergency doctor, that was deeply concerned about the county's really out-of-step policy in this area. It's a complex area. I don't want to simplify how difficult that is. We're one of the few jurisdictions in the country to require 2 paramedics on an ambulance. The alternative is what you've staffed the driver as an EMT, which requires slightly less training, and you still have a paramedic in the back. And we have a mammoth national and regional shortage of paramedics. That means that when you're requiring 2 on an ambulance, you just don't have enough ambulances driving in Multnomah County right now. Unfortunately, I think she's on the wrong side of history. And with respecting the housing regulations, I'd encourage you to kind of your listeners to go look at the history there. The Development Commission makes recommendations to City Council on housing regulations. And there was some really odd procedures that occurred at the Development Commission on that. What I brought forward were actually proposals originally proposed by staff that were shot down in kind of a backroom deal at the Development Commission. So there may have been surprise that we brought it up at council, but council's the ultimate decision maker on those policy things. Anyways, that's just the background. We didn't bring these out of the blue. Those were long vetted ideas that were actually coming from city staff. But in general, the topic of how the mayor works with city council, there are some really important differences in the new form of government. One, the mayor has ultimate executive and administrative authority. So they have the ability to make rules. So within the operation of the city, we have kind of this blended role right now as existing commissioners where you wear 2 hats. You're a legislator and you're an administrator too. And those lines are going to get a lot clearer in the new form of government. Council is going to be responsible for legislation, ultimately the budgeting authority, and the mayor designates a city administrator, but under the charter has the sole administrative and executive authority in the city. So I think that delineation is going to be helpful. But what I'll say is that I have been a standard bearer in my short time on council around public safety and livability. I have been very comfortable to step outside of kind of the political establishment on a number of issues, on these core issues that I feel are really threatening the city at a time we're losing population, at a time we're losing tax base, at a time where citizens have never viewed their government more negatively. And I will continue to do that as mayor. And that means sometimes putting out a flag and to change the conversation. And I think, regardless how votes go, sometimes I've been very effective at changing the conversation and planting a flag as to where we need to go as a city. And some of those things don't pay out right away. They change votes that are going to occur 12 months or 18 months from now.
Let me just pause you there. Sorry, Rene. What you said totally makes sense. You have been starting a lot of different conversations within city council. But I'm curious, what do you feel you've been able to accomplish, like actually pass through?
Well, on the administration of my bureaus, our 911 wait time's down about 30%. Our non-emergency wait time is down about 60%. We put a flat line on fire overtime that was mushrooming under my predecessor, and happy to get into why that was happening. We have flattened the curve on overtime hours without losing performance in the Fire Bureau. So these core sort of executive responsibilities thrived out. I led this citywide effort to ban outdoor drug use last summer. The mayor had originally proposed it. There was a complexity in state law that it wasn't Measure 110 that prevented us from enforcing it. But I led the citywide vote to take that back. It passed 5-0, and it was a response to what Portlanders were telling me they needed to see. I led the charge when the police union articulated they were willing to put body cams on. They reached out to me last spring, and they said, we think a deal can be hatched. We're willing to compromise on this. Will city council, if city council shows a willingness to compromise on certain aspects of it? And that had been a huge embarrassment for our city. We were the last major city in the country to get body cams on our police officers. And within a few months of me being on council, we have an agreement settled on how those body cams are going to be put on police officers. So I'm thrilled with how my first year went in terms of those, executive and legislative wins on the things that I can control. The reality is I was elected to a 4-year term, and charter reform passed on the day I got elected. And so there a little bit of a rug got pulled out from underneath me in terms of, I didn't get an easy first year. The first year, they're already implementing the next form of government. And I've got to make a decision of what's next for me, basically 6 months into the job. So I announced in, December. And once you announce for mayor, the politics change. Like, it just becomes more complicated to get things done at council. But I'll take my first, 17 months on the job over anybody compared to anyone running in this race as to what they achieved in 17 months.
So you're saying that you were the one who was able to broker the police to actually wearing the cameras that they were supposed to be wearing?
I think it's safe to say that I was a difference maker on council.
Yeah, Commissioner Mingus Mapps is also claiming body cams as his success. So I feel like it is a shared success if everybody's like, I was the guy,
It's a shared success. But I would submit to Commissioner Mapps and Commissioner Rubio, why didn't it occur until I was on council? And, you can go compare notes with the police union president on that. And again, we all get to share some of it, but it didn't get done until I was there.
Yeah. And for the, public drug use policy, I would say that being passed in city council, it really was more symbolic because it couldn't go into effect without action from the state of legislature, correct?
Yes, but it included an explicit ask of the state legislature to either remove their preemption or address Measure 110. And, you asked our government relations folks, that are the people who will deal with the state legislature. For the most progressive city in, Oregon, arguably, at least at one time, the most progressive city in the country, or up there, to say we're done with outdoor drug use, that sent a huge message. And that was very much the city putting down a flag that we've got to address this on our streets. And I want to be clear about what the flag is. I don't really care about what drugs people use and where or when. I don't really care. It's about this debilitating level of drug use that we're seeing in our communities, and the inability of the state to put up long-promised addiction services. And that's, I just want to be clear as to what the flag was from my perspective.
All right, well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, more with mayoral candidate and city commissioner Rene Gonzalez. Have you ever wished you could just go somewhere and decorate cakes? If you're nodding your head right now, well, Cake Hoopla has got you covered. A do-it-yourself cake and cupcake decorating studio in Tigard. They supply you with everything needed, including the baked cakes and cupcakes, and the frosting, the fondant, the sprinkles, tools, and even instructions if you're going for something a bit more highfalutin. You can join workshops, book private parties, or order kits to take home. No matter the skill level, Cake Hoopla has something for everyone. They even offer customizable packages for any kind of party, kids' birthday, birthdays, company events, bridal showers, holiday parties, team building. You get it. Customers can also book a table, the party room, the whole studio, or just choose a pickup option. For more info, head over to Cake Hoopla in Tiger, just off I-5, or go to cakehoopla.com. Well, when we had Mayor Wheeler on the show, I asked him what qualities someone needs to be successful in the role as mayor in our city. And he said, whoever took the reins would need some very thick skin because criticism and a lack of privacy comes with the territory. And there have been concerns about your ability to deal with that criticism. The clearest incident I'm talking about is when you reported being accosted on a MAX train, and when video evidence proved otherwise. You did get some flack. Like, how will you act differently as mayor?
Well, one, I mean, you have to take a hard line on some things. You know, and if we're going to talk about my family's involvement in some of these things. My parents' car was also set on fire in front of our home. And in a short period of time, there were threats made against my campaign, an actual arson at my house, and the event on the train. So I think the next mayor certainly has to have thick skin, but has to be unbending on core issues and not try to please all sides. There's some of these issues that are too tough. We're not going to please everybody. There's going to be some groups that are going to be, disappointed and angry with the next mayor. And I'm going to choose to make my decisions based on core public safety and livability, and for all Portlanders. And I'm very explicit. I want families to be able to thrive in the city of Portland again. They've had some struggles in recent years. We're losing a lot of families, including at PPS. I want seniors to be able to age in place. I'm a father of two, recently graduated high school young women. I want them to be safe in the city, have economic opportunity, and have joy in the city. And I'm going to be uncompromising on those things. That doesn't mean I can't take criticism. I do, if people have legitimate critiques, I'll listen to it. But I'll be unbending on core values for the city of Portland.
But do you think you responded properly to the MAX train incident?
Part of the background there, Claudia, is we reached out a couple times to TriMet. I wanted to actually see the footage before I commented on it, because the woman came up from behind me. I thought I was sitting alone up there. I didn't even realize someone was behind me. So,
that was a bit of a jump scare.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to see on the video. Mm-hmm. I certainly perceived that I had contact twice from behind. And it was once on my shoulder and once on my leg. I'm telling you, just like you can't really decipher one way or another on the video, but that's what I perceived in the moment. And someone's fairly agitated, engaging with you. I was conveying my honest understanding of what occurred, but also recognized I had limited view. I couldn't see her walk up. I couldn't see anything that led to it. I'm just responding in a moment, in a really crazy couple of weeks where we're getting threats, and actually right after, an arson at our house. So that is, I conveyed the best understanding I could, and I tried to get more facts before I publicly commented on it. We just didn't get to see the video until there was a real lag later. And so did I handle it well? Well, I got off the train at the next stop. I avoided an altercation. I didn't want to have that engagement with her at that particular time, and I de-escalated it. I got out of there. And it's that part could you do something different if you can see it from all angles? Sure, but I didn't get to see all angles at the moment. And so I've had to make adjustments in my life.
Right.
And that means that most of the time, to avoid misinterpretations, but also to avoid some of the conflicts, I'm with security a lot more now. That's just have to be a change I've had to make. It's a change Mayor Wheeler also had to make.
Yeah. His dinner's getting interrupted and all that. But I guess the thing is that it almost felt like it was used as a way to basically say the TriMet isn't safe, Portland isn't safe. Like Mayor Wheeler kept going to dinner and you said you wouldn't ride the TriMet again. So that was, as a concerned citizen myself, that was how it was perceived. And so as the mayor, if these things continue, which by the way, Rene, hearing about the arson, all that, like so scary and awful. I can only imagine the heightened sense that you must have felt as well. So I'm not saying like that's not valid in any way. It's more of just like, well, are we going to hear more of this as mayor if things happen? Because you are very hardline and like that's what people respect about you. But if there is criticisms, will these type of media events continue?
Well, let's take a step back. I think I announced the train on Twitter. I didn't call a press conference. I tweeted out a video, if I recall, on it. Part of the TriMet story was also spun by my opponents a lot. I wasn't criticizing TriMet. I was feeling targeted, and I was in fact being targeted as an elected official. I didn't stop writing TriMet because of general concerns about safety. I was doing it to adjust to the new reality that I'm a public figure that has taken hard stances that some people disagree with, and that they will occasionally engage in behavior that is totally inappropriate to, I just don't want to interact with it right now. So I've had to make those adjustments. I think if you were to compare me to Mayor Wheeler, I think he would probably tell you this, candidly, it took too long to adjust to how Portland had changed in 2020. It took too long for the city, frankly, to adjust the security regime around him to protect him and his family. It is a massively different security regime today than it was in 2019. I won't get into all the details, but there have been major shifts in how we protect the mayor as a city. So I do think there will be differences. I'm not going to placate folks. I'm never going to rationalize arson against, and the mayor faced threats of arson too. I mean, he has dealt with some crazy stuff. So, but you didn't see me yelling at someone. I disagree. I'll hold the line, and I'm going to take reasonable steps to protect my family and myself as a public official. And one last point on this. If we don't push back as electeds and as a community for each other, you really do get governance by mob. I mean, what the mayor and Dan Ryan had to put up with in 2020 and 2021, Commissioner Ryan faced over 10 instances of vandalism at his home. In hindsight, I wish he would have spoken up more.
Yeah.
Like, it is totally unacceptable. That undermines democracy. And that's not just as an individual and a family and a neighbor, because this impacts whole neighborhoods when you're dealing with them. The arson at our home scared the shit out of everybody in my neighborhood. I mean, it's not just, sorry for the foul word there, but I mean,
trust me, you're fine.
And so it's also totally undermines democracy. If elected officials are terrified that if they say the wrong thing or don't vote the right way, that they're going to be dealing with arson, that people are intimidating their family, it really undermines democracy. And our city took a very wrong turn in 2020 when this started to become normalized. So I will push back much harder than Mayor Wheeler on it, unapologetically, because it's not just unfair to my family and to my neighbors. It's unfair to our democracy that we have normalized this in the Northwest. This was not true 10 years ago in Portland or Seattle. This is a recent development of what elected officials are exposed to. And we have to recalibrate all of us to that reality.
Right. So when you said you were taking a break from TriMet on video, that's what you were saying. You were basically saying as an elected official.
I'm trying to calibrate safety. And one of the things I'm assessing for the summer is, how do I get on there? I'll go on with security unapologetically, but I'd like to be back on the train precisely because I am the commissioner of public safety. I'd like to be present. I'd like to be wearing a Portland Fire or emergency management shirt, prominently. So looking at ways to do that again. I'll likely have security with me, but that's good for the whole train.
Mm-hmm. I'm ending every one of our mayoral candidate interviews with the same question. I used to be in a band and I would go on tour often. And one of the things that I would miss the most would be like our produce. Like Portland has amazing salads. And so I'm curious, like when you leave for work or vacation, like what it is that you miss the most about Portland?
We have authentic, organic, social, and community artifacts, organizations, clubs. And for me, that's often been, soccer or football. It's grassroots, it's real, it's not commoditized. I soccer club I once ran on the east side was we were independent and fiercely so. We wouldn't affiliate with the Timbers or any large brands at the time, and it was just so Portland. And we thrived at the time because we were so independent, and that became kind of macro. It's now the largest youth soccer club in the state, but it's also part of this like micro thing. Like it's just like you take care of your neighborhood, you find people who have a similar interest, and you build cool stuff. And that's a big part of Portland's legacy. In some ways, sometimes we go to crazy extremes on it, but I love that about Portland. And sometimes that manifests itself in neighborhood associations. Sometimes that's youth soccer clubs. Sometimes that's music. But that grassroots appreciation of the really micro local, man, I love that about our city. And I think that has to be part of our future for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. I know what you're talking about. It's like that community that like we're ready to create community at any moment. We're just like, you like this too? Let's make a shirt.
Yep.
We're doing this.
Down right.
One more question. What is your campaign song?
I don't know yet. There's one song I love that's what is it?
You can hum it out to me. Maybe we'll figure it out together.
It's like Better Days Are Coming. Which one's that?
Better Days Are Coming. I don't know. Let's see. Let's get our fact checker on it.
Let me see. I'm going to Google it right now. But
okay, me too. Oh, Dermot Kennedy?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Dermot Kennedy. Better Days Are Coming.
Did I get the song name right?
Yeah. It's called Better Days.
I can remember. I wasn't sure about his full name, but I like that song.
Okay.
And it's got a nice jive, man. We had a tough couple of years. Let's go have some fun and celebrate here a little bit.
Yeah. Well, Rene, thank you so much for sharing some of your limited time, and good luck.
Thank you much. You guys have a good one.
Just a quick note, Commissioner Gonzalez and I did not have these stats available during our conversation, but a report conducted in 2021 by the Portland Mercury found that only about 18% of Portland's police force live within our city limits, and that more Portland Police Bureau officers live in the state of Washington than in the city of Portland. And most of Portland's police officers reside in suburbs south and east of the city like Happy Valley, Gresham, Westland, and Oregon City. And now for some events happening this week. Every Thursday on the show, we like to bring you a few recommendations to help you plan your weekend. Here's what we got. It's the 40th anniversary of the iconic Tigard Festival of Balloons this Friday through Sunday. Get there early to watch 19 hot air balloons launch into the morning sky, or stay all day to take a ride in a tethered balloon. Enjoy some live music, family-friendly activities, or just a beer at the beer garden. Also, the Risk Reward Festival of New Performance is happening Friday through Sunday at PICA. That's the Portland Institute of Contemporary Art. They'll have over 40 artists performing innovative new works. There will be dance, shadow puppetry, installation art, and so much more. They're also going to have drag shows and after parties, and the after parties are where it's at. Go check that out. And if you're looking to celebrate one of Oregon's best growing seasons, Strawberry Day 2024 starts at the Hollywood Farmers Market on Saturday. It celebrates the peak of our local strawberry season with various strawberry-themed activities. You can also enjoy tastings, live music, special events for kids, and even a raffle for a strawberry-themed gift basket. For even more local events and news, sign up for our daily newsletter, Hey Portland. We'll throw all links in the show notes. Well, that's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.